Prime Minister Julia Gillard today unveiled plans to introduce a fixed price on carbon emissions by June next year, with a transition to an emissions trading scheme after that. It's a move with big implications for the price of everyday staples, including power, petrol and groceries. Opposition leader Tony Abbott described the announcement as an utter betrayal of Labor's election commitment not to introduce a carbon tax, and vowed to fight it every second of every day. Matt Peacock reports from Canberra.
All carbon emissions, including even cars and trucks, will be in this price on carbon. An emissions trade across transport, energy, industry, but not agriculture, to be phased in after an initial annual fixed rate.
I'm determined to do it because climate change is real. We have never before lived with so many people on the planet emitting so much carbon pollution.
Utter betrayal of the Australian people. And if the Australian people could not trust the Prime Minister on this, they can't trust her on anything. She made a solemn commitment to the Australian people before the election.
This is what Julia Gillard said.
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead.
Like some latter-day Lady Macbeth would consider this statement, there will be no carbon tax under the government I lead, and this latter-day Lady Macbeth will be saying, out, out, foul spot, out, foul spot. But she said it, and she will be judged by it, Mr. Speaker.
But that was then. A hung parliament has led to this multi-party climate committee and today's announcement, relying on independent and some apparently happy Green support.
If you put a price on something, then people will use less of it. At the moment, it is free to emit carbon pollution. If we price carbon pollution, then people will find ways of emitting less of it because they won't want to pay the price.
This is a hybrid process for a fixed price to move to a cap and trade system, which we actually developed from Professor Garneau's ideas some 12 months ago.
The fixed carbon price would last between 3 to 5 years before moving to a market rate. But that move's by no means certain, subject to a review a year out and depending on other international action and treaty targets. It's Climate Minister Greg Combet whose job it is to negotiate all the details of what he admits is effectively a tax.
Big polluters will be paying a carbon price for the pollution that they emit, but the purpose here, of course, is to provide the incentive to cut their pollution levels and to drive investment in clean energy.
It's a tax, though, isn't it?
Look, this is a carbon price through a market mechanism. With the first 3 years of the market mechanism, at least, between 3 and 5 years, being a period where there is a fixed price, and in effect that will operate like a carbon tax. But the clear intent is to move to emissions trading as quickly as we can.
But 3 years on, if the international conditions don't square up, it could just stay as a fixed rate.
Well, it's important to have the opportunity a few years down the track to have a look at the international circumstances and what obligations the Australian government may have in any international agreement that emerges.
It's lead in industry's saddlebags, according to the Australian Confederation of Commerce and Industries, Greg Evans.
We can assure the government that none of our members, our 350,000 members, are actually queuing up to pay higher energy prices, especially where the environmental gain associated with the carbon pricing is negligible.
Industry compensation is yet to be agreed, so too is compensation for the poor. But if it's enough, Australian Council of Social Service supports a carbon price.
It's very important that the country comes together at this time to finally start to tackle carbon pollution in our country.
For the government to pass this into law, it will need crossbench support, and even the two independents on the Climate Committee appear to differ.
I certainly support the release of this document, and if I had to vote on it tomorrow, I would.
All options are on the table. This is a framework to work within. We've made progress. Obviously, there'd have to be agreement in both houses of Parliament of a model that we all agree with. We haven't seen that model yet, and I'm sure there'll be arguments and issues raised. Nothing settled in my view.
There'll be many more twists and turns before any carbon price becomes law. This will be the government's biggest battle, and it's only just begun.
Matt Peacock with that report.